Okay, so let's picture this. Imagine the two biggest titans of physics,
Hmm.
standing in a boxing ring. In the blue corner, you've got general relativity, Einstein's masterpiece.
Right.
It's elegant, it's smooth, it explains gravity, the curvature of space-time, just beautifully. It handles all the big stuff stars, galaxies, the shape of the universe.
It's the macro world, the geometry of the cosmos.
Exactly. And in the red corner, you have the standard model of quantum mechanics.
Hmm.
And it's jagged, it's pixelated, and it deals with the messy, chaotic world of subatomic particles. And the problem, the single biggest headache in science for the last century,
Hmm.
is that these two fighters absolutely refuse to shake hands.
They don't just refuse, they speak completely different languages. If you try to use the smooth math of relativity to describe the jagged quantum world or, vice versa,
Well,
the equations literally blow up. You
yeah.
get infinities. The math breaks down. It's just nonsense.
It's the ultimate family feud. But what if the fight is rigged? What if we've been looking at the ring all wrong? Today, we are doing a deep dive into a manuscript that is, frankly, audacious. It's a dense, ambitious work titled Supersymmetric Geometric Quantum Mechanics,
Or SGQM for short.
right, SGQM. It's by Aaron Buscemi, released fairly recently. And his claim isn't just that he can make these two theories play nice. He claims they're actually the same thing, just viewed from different angles of a 12-dimensional geometry.
It's a massive claim. We're talking about a theory of everything candidate here. And unlike a lot of modern physics, which relies on building bigger colliders to smash particles together in hopes of finding new debris, Buscemi is going back to the drawing board, literally to geometry. He's arguing we need to fundamentally change our perspective on what empty space is.
Before we get into the 12 dimensions, and yes, everyone, we are going to try and visualize 12 dimensions today, I was struck by the preface. Usually, physics papers are, dry as dust.
So,
But Buscemi starts with this vivid image of himself as a 6-year-old kid. He describes pressing his face into his pillow at night.
yeah, watching the phosphenes, those geometric patterns, the fractals and spirals you see when you rub your eyes too hard?
He calls it his blackboard of nothingness.
Which is such a poetic way to start a physics paper.
Right. He describes this intuitive sense, even as a child, that the spinning patterns he saw in the dark were somehow connected to how the Earth spins, how time moves.
He was driving his teachers crazy.
Oh yeah, asking how the clock actually works, not just how to read the numbers.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that before all the heavy calculus, physics starts with jest, staring into the void and wondering what the structure is.
And that childlike intuition is actually crucial to understanding this paper. SGQM asks us to stop thinking of the universe as a container of empty space with little billiard ball particles flying around inside it. Instead, it wants us to visualize a living, breathing, geometric lattice.
And he calls this whole lattice the Aetheron. Now, hang on, I have to stop you there because my jargon alarm is it's ringing off the hook.
I was waiting for it.
Aether is like a dirty word in physics, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Didn't we disprove that, I don't know, 100 years ago? With the Michelson-Morley experiment?
We did. We absolutely did. We proved there was no, what they called the luminiferous ether,
Right.
the static gas or wind that light was supposed to move through. But Buscemi, he's very careful here. He's not bringing back that old static gas idea. He defines the Aetheron as a dynamic rank 2 tensor field.
Okay, translation, please. Rank 2 tensor field
Yeah.
doesn't help me visualize it.
Fair enough. Think of it less like a gas that things move through and more like a structured fabric that is the things.
What?
Imagine a trampoline.
Okay, I'm with you.
A trampoline is a 2D fabric. If you stand on it, it curves. That's the classic Einstein analogy. But now, upgrade that to a 3D lattice filling all of space. And it's not passive, it's a generative medium. It's not just a stage where the play happens. The stage itself is twisting, curling, and creating the actors.
So the particles are the twists in the fabric.
Exactly. And the structure of this fabric is where the dimensions come in. Because we're used to 3 dimensions of space, up, down, left, right, forward, back, and 1 of time. That's 4.
Oh, 4, yeah.
Right, M4. But Buscemi says that's just the surface.
So where is he hiding the other 8 dimensions? Because I don't see them.
Well, this is the architecture of reality, according to SGQM. The model breaks the universe down into M4 and F8. M4 is the macroscopic world we see. But the theory says that at every single point in our space,
Every pixel.
yeah, every tiny pixel of reality, there is a hidden internal structure called the F8 fiber.
So it's like a fiber optic cable.
That's a perfect analogy. From the outside, looking at a cable across the room, it looks like a single line, a 1D object. But if you slice it open and look at the cross-section, there's this complex bundle of wires inside. Buscemi is saying space-time is like that. At every point, there is a complex knot of 8 hidden dimensions curling in on themselves.
And what's happening inside that fiber? What's in the bundle?
Inside that hidden space, you have the control panel for the universe. The source calls them the R-axis.
The R-axis. This is where the manuscript started to feel like an instruction manual for a machine.
It is a machine. The theory proposes 8 orthogonal axes. Think of them as 8 separate dials on a mixing board. They act as the parameters for reality at that specific point, and they're split into 2 teams.
Teams.
Yes. You have axes R1 through R4. This is the fermionic domain.
Fermions are matter, right? The stuff we're made of. Electrons, quarks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mass, charge, spin. These axes control the solidity and persistence of the universe. Then you have the second team, axes R5 through R8. This is the bosonic domain. These govern forces, curvature, field interactions, the stuff that pushes and pulls.
So let me try to synthesize this. In this view, an electron isn't a little distinct ball sitting in the fabric.
No. An electron is a knot. It's a stable topological excitation. It happens when you twist those specific R-axes, the fermionic ones, in a recursive way. The electron is the twist in the Aetheron lattice.
It's a feature of the background, not a visitor passing through.
You got it.
And that's a fundamental shift in how we see stuff. But let's get to the engine of this thing. The paper highlights something called the Aetheron theorem. And when I looked at the equation alpha 2 plus ER2, it gave me flashbacks to high school geometry. It looked exactly like the Pythagorean theorem, a tie dollars plus B2 C2D2.
That is not a coincidence.
Yeah.
That is the entire point. Buscemi is claiming that the fundamental laws of physics are actually a dynamic Pythagorean identity. He's essentially saying Einstein's famous EMC22 is actually a geometric relationship.
Walk me through the triangle. If physics is a triangle, what are the sides?
Okay, visualize a right-angled triangle spinning in the dark. The vertices are glowing nodes. The long side, the hypotenuse, is labeled alpha, alpha. That represents the fine structure constant.
Which is usually just a mysterious number in physics, right? 1 over 137.
In standard physics, it's just an empirical number we measure. We don't know why it is what it is. But in SGQM, alpha is the geometric synchronization factor. It represents the total conserved size of the triangle. It never changes. It's the rigid rod that connects the geometry.
Okay, so the hypotenuse is the total capacity of the system. What are the legs?
Leg 1 is mykina. That's the mass term. It represents persistence, how stable and solid the knot is. Leg 2 is aeroterian. That's rotational energy. It represents external oscillation, how much it's interacting or moving.
So mass and energy are just shadows.
Projections. Think about that spinning triangle again. If you look at it from one angle, the mass leg might look very long, and the energy leg looks short.
As it rotates.
They swap. Mass turns into energy. Energy turns into mass. But the triangle itself, the hypotenuse, hasn't changed size.
That makes EMC22 feel almost intuitive.
Yeah.
It's not that mass magically explodes into energy. It's that the geometry rotates, projecting its magnitude onto a different axis.
Precisely. You don't need a separate mass particle and energy particle. You just have this rotating Aetheron structure that shows you a different face depending on how it's turned. This is the heart of supersymmetry in this model matter, and force are just different projections of the same geometry.
Speaking of rotation, we have to talk about spin. Because this is one of those things in quantum mechanics that sounds like nonsense when you first learn it. I remember being told that matter particles, fermions like electrons, have spin 12, which means they have to spin around twice 720 degrees to get back to where they started.
It's incredibly counterintuitive. If I turn a coffee cup 360 degrees, it's back to the start. If I turn myself 360 degrees, I'm facing you again. Why does an electron need to do 2 full laps to reset?
Usually the professor just says, that's just the math, don't worry about it. But SGQM tries to actually explain the geometry of why.
It does. The source calls this the dual boson structure. It claims that a 720-degree cycle isn't one big weird loop. It's actually 2 orthogonal 360-degree rotations happening at the same time.
2 wheels turning at once.
Think of a gymnast doing a backflip and a twist simultaneously. To get back to the exact starting position, standing up, facing forward, hands down. You have to complete the cycles of both motions. If you only do the flip, you're upside down. If you only do half the twist, you're facing backward. In the Aetheron model, this complex cycle has 4 distinct phases.
The paper lists them: spin sync, charge phase, mass coupling, and color rotation.
Right. At every 180 degrees, the geometric projection flips. The source describes horizontal and vertical flips. Imagine that spinning triangle again. It flips horizontally, then vertically, then horizontally, then vertically. It takes 4 of those half-turns, 720 degrees, to untwist all the internal dimensions and return to state 0.
And it mentions a 1440-degree metacycle. That's 4 full spins.
That's the heavy hitter. That's the heartbeat of the Aetheron. To get full supersymmetric closure, which means balancing matter, antimatter, and the vacuum itself, the geometry has to complete a massive 1440-degree rotation. It suggests the universe has this deep, rhythmic breathing cycle that keeps existence stable.
It sounds incredibly active. The universe isn't static. It's spinning like crazy at the micro level.
Yeah.
But this brings us to the part of the manuscript that really stopped me in my tracks: the non-propagation hypothesis.
This is undoubtedly the most radical departure from standard physics in the text.
The source says, effectively, nothing travels.
Nothing travels.
Explain that. Because I drove to the studio today. I definitely traveled. My coffee cup traveled from the table to my mouth. How can a physics theory say nothing moves?
You perceived travel. You perceived a persistent object moving through empty space. But SGQM argues that at the quantum level, forces like light, gravity, or even matter in motion are not things pushing through the void. Instead, interactions are instantaneous local phase resynchronizations.
Give me an analogy. Help me see this.
Okay, think of a massive stadium LED screen. You see an image of a soccer ball fly across the screen. Does the ball travel?
No. The light bulbs on the left turn off and the light bulbs on the right turn on.
Exactly. The pixels don't move, the pattern moves, the information updates. Machimi argues the universe is like that screen. The Aetheron lattice is the pixels. When a photon travels from the sun to the Earth, it's not a little bullet flying through space. It's the lattice sequentially flipping its geometry, updating its phase bucket brigade style all the way to your eye.
That strangely makes sense of the speed of light. Because if you're just updating pixels, there's a limit to how fast the refresh rate can be.
Bingo. In this model, the speed of light is not a travel velocity. It is the universal rate of rotational synchronization. It's the refresh rate of the universe. The lattice can only click its gears into the new alignment so fast. That's why acetylar is constant. It's the mechanical speed limit of the Aetheron.
So if light is just the lattice updating, what is gravity? Because Einstein taught us gravity is curved space.
SGQM agrees with curved space, but it redefines the mechanism. It calls gravity geometric guidance caused by synchronization energy.
Geometric guidance.
When a massive object, which remember is just a big complex knot in the lattice, sits in space, it twists the fabric around it. It creates torsional tension, like twisting a bed sheet in the middle. Now imagine a smaller marble nearby. Standard physics says it falls down the curve, SGQM says. Fundamentally, that marble is a spinning gyroscope. To keep spinning in that twisted bed sheet, it has to align its axis with the twist. It has to phase lock with the distorted geometry.
So it moves towards the mass, not because it's being pulled, but because that's the path of least resistance for its internal gears.
Exactly. It's following the grain of the wood. It's purely geometric.
Now, theories are great, but the graveyard of physics is full of beautiful theories that didn't match reality. Does SGQM actually predict anything we can test, or is it just pretty math?
That's the crucial question. And the manuscript takes a big swing here with the planet Mercury.
The precession of Mercury. This is famous. This was the proof that Einstein was right and Newton was wrong.
Correct. Mercury's orbit shifts precesses by 43 arcseconds per century more than Newton predicted. Einstein's general relativity calculated that exact number perfectly based on the curvature of space near the sun.
So does Buscemi say Einstein is wrong?
He says Einstein is incomplete. SGQM predicts the same 43 arcsecond shift, but it adds a tiny, tiny variable called the rotational correction tensor.
A correction?
The source claims Mercury's precession is partly due to magnetic leakage.
Magnetic leakage?
Remember those R-axes? The sun has a massive magnetic field, that's axis R6, but it also has mass axis R7. Standard general relativity says gravity doesn't care about magnetism. There were separate forces. SGQM says, wait, these are just different dials on the same fiber.
So the sun's magnetism creates drag on gravity.
torsional drag, specifically.
Hmm.
The theory predicts that the sun's magnetic field physically drags the fabric of gravity slightly. This means Mercury's orbit should wobble in a specific pattern that correlates with the sun's 11-year magnetic cycle.
That is a testable prediction. If we look at the data and see Mercury dancing to the rhythm of solar flares, Einstein has a problem.
Exactly. It's a very bold claim because it connects two forces, gravity and electromagnetism, that physics has kept separate for a century.
And it does the same thing for the other big mystery. Dark matter, the stuff that makes up 85% of the universe, but we can't see it.
We've been hunting for dark matter particles WIMPs for decades. Billions of dollars spent on detectors buried in mines. We haven't found a single one.
What does SGQM say dark matter is?
It says we're looking for the wrong thing. It's not a ghost particle. It's a dark boson or an Aetheron knot trapped in a silent mode.
The silent mode.
Go back to the control panel. Normal matter, the stuff we see, uses R1 through R4. And crucially, it uses R2, the charge axis. If you have charge, you interact with light, you can be seen.
Okay.
The source proposes that dark matter knots are rotating orthogonal to that. They use axes R5, R7, and R8. They skip the charge axis completely.
So they are literally invisible to the electromagnetic spectrum.
Electromagnetically silent. But they use R7, the curvature axis.
So they still have mass. They still warp space.
Exactly. They warp the lattice, they create gravity, they hold galaxies together, but they cannot emit or reflect light because their gears don't touch the light dial. It's pure geometry without the charge phase.
It makes you wonder what else is happening on those other channels. It's like we are listening to FM radio and wondering where the music is, but the band is playing on AM.
That's a great way to put it. We are blind to half the geometry because of how our own matter is tuned. It also resolves the mass gap problem.
What's that?
In this theory, you can't just have any amount of mass. You need a specific amount of rotational work to tie the knot. If you don't have enough energy to lock those R-axes into a 720-degree cycle, the knot just unravels back into the vacuum. It explains why particles have specific masses and why we don't see a continuous soup of matter.
It's binary. You're either a knot or you're nothing.
It's a quantized universe in the truest sense.
You know, as we talk through this, the feeling I get is order. Standard quantum mechanics feels chaotic. God playing dice, as Einstein complained. The uncertainty principle. Yeah. This theory feels incredibly deterministic.
It is. SGQM takes a hard stance against fundamental randomness. It suggests that what we call randomness or uncertainty is just our inability to see the hidden rotational phases.
It's like watching a clock from the side. You see the hands going up and down, and it looks like a random oscillation. But if you could step into the 12th dimension and see the face of the clock, you'd see it's a perfect circle.
That's the perfect analogy. Buscemi argues that constants like T-pi, the golden ratio, and alpha aren't just random numbers scattered by the Big Bang. They are the gear ratios of this machine. The universe is a perfect 12-dimensional clockwork.
So where does that leave us, the listener, me, you, if we are just knots in a lattice?
It leads to a concept the source calls rotational memory. And honestly, it changes how you view connection.
How so?
If everything is just a twisting of this single, continuous Aetheron lattice, then nothing is truly separate. Think about entanglement.
Spooky action at a distance. Two particles affecting each other instantly across the universe.
In SGQM, that's not spooky at all. It's just 2 points on the same twisting geometric structure. If you hold a rope and I hold the other end, and you twist your wrist, I feel the twist. Not because you sent a signal through the air, but because we are holding the same rope.
We aren't separate from the geometry.
No, we are the geometry in motion. We are intricate, self-sustaining knots in the fabric of the universe, persisting for a little while before we unravel back into the Aetheron.
That is heavy, but strangely beautiful. It takes the cold, fragmented vacuum of space and turns it into something connected, a single, breathing architecture.
It turns physics into a study of architecture, the architecture of reality.
Well, on that note, I think my brain needs a reset phase to process all those dimensions. I'm going to be seeing triangles in my sleep.
Just make sure you do the full 720-degree spin before you wake up.
Will do. Thanks for taking us through the lattice today. And to everyone listening, keep looking at the patterns in the dark. You never know what geometry you might find. Catch you on the next deep dive.